hukam kuto bhavat.
Srimad Vacha Kingfish inquiry. In Andreas, O King England, Anivata of the Morosis. They tune the reason, Shrotam to hear. Ichami, I wish. The moon, O my lord. Nune, O great sage, Shukadeva Swami. Yenam, I wish. Asana, word. Sukani, Sukahinaha, very happy. Deva, all the demigods. Hare and Indra. To come to our senses. Vita, Brahma, Abhavet, once. Translation for Prabhupada Prabhupada Gita. Translation. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Jukadeva Goswami, O great sage, what was the reason for Indra's unhappiness? I wish to hear about this. When he killed Vritrasura, all the demigods were extremely happy. Why then is Indra himself unhappy? Report. This, of course, is a very intelligent question. When a demon is killed, certainly all the demigods are happy. In this case, however, when all the demigods were happy because of Vritrasura's having been killed, Indra was unhappy. Why? It may be suggested that Indra was unhappy because he knew that he had killed a great devotee of Brahma. Vritrasura outwardly appeared to be a demon, but inwardly he was a great devotee, and therefore a great Brahman. Here it is clearly indicated that a person who does not uphold Samanya, such as Lord Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, may outwardly be a demon or be born in a family of demons. Therefore, in terms of real culture, one should not be considered a demigod or a demon simply according to birth. In his dealings while fighting with Indra, Vritrasura proved himself a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of God. Furthermore, as soon as he finished fighting with Indra, he was apparently killed. Vritrasura was transferred to Vaikuntha Loka to become an associate of Sankarsana. Indra knew this, and therefore he was morose at having killed such a demon, who was actually a Vaishnava or Brahmana. A Vaishnava is already a Brahmana, although a Brahmana may not be a Vaishnava. In the Padma Purana, it says, Satkarani Prano Vipur, Antatantra Vishar Vishraddha. A Vaishnava Guru Asya, Vaishnava Svapacho. One may be a Brahmana in terms of his culture and may be expert in Vedic knowledge, mantra, tantra, vishraddha. But if he is not a Vaishnava, he cannot be a Guru. This means that an expert Brahmana may not be a Vaishnava, but a Vaishnava is already a Brahmana. A millionaire may very easily possess hundreds of thousands of dollars, but a person with hundreds of thousands of dollars is not necessarily. Vritrasura was a perfect Vaishnava, and therefore he was also a Brahmana. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-shalakaya Chakshurmitapyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Bhagavatmaya Bhante Swapanantika Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Jagabhajunyasya Kripasya Patitam Vaishnaviya. Okay, there's this thing. Sorry, there's some audio problems. Okay, so this is community running and actually no, just beginning of 13th chapter. Titled Indra is affected by sinful reactions. So I wanted to speak a little bit today about A little bit what the speaker yesterday talked about in class, how we don't judge, like how not to judge a book by its cover. And then also how Vedic knowledge can change the way that we see things. So this, what's happening now in the Srimad Bhagavatam, what we're reading, is, yeah, so Indra, who's the like leader of demigods in a sense, or the saintly persons, is just killed this demon Vritrasur. So this is a battle that took place like thousands of years ago, which the Vedic literature describes, which is really cool because most of the time the modern take on history that we see is it only goes back into like a couple of centuries ago. But we don't often get history from previous yugas or previous time frames of life people were living. So Srimad Bhagavatam is really nice that way because it dates knowledge that it gives dates back way farther than anything else you can find in our literature today. Even yeah, I think if you like chronologically look at different books that date back into history, the latest, like Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the primary books of the Bhakti Yoga philosophy, dates back the farthest even farther than Tibetan Book of the Dead. So the knowledge in it is very ancient, but it's very somehow mystically relevant to today's day and age that's currently happening, which is very nice. So, so in this, yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Vedic encyclopedia, we're hearing a narration of a history that happened a long time ago with Indra and Vritrasura. And yeah, this can seem very like mystical and unreal in a sense, like, oh, demigods, that's not a real thing. Demigods don't really exist. Demons, like, those are only things we hear about, but they're not actually real. So this is where it's really nice to have knowledge of things that are beyond uh, what we can just perceive with our eyes. This is where Vedic knowledge comes handy, or spiritual knowledge, because it gives us the vision which we can see things just by hearing them, not necessarily see them with our eyes. As we hear from Sri Upanishad and the teachings of and just our practical vision, our eyes are actually very limited. So we can't see, we can't see very much just with our eyes. And even if you're in a room that's completely dark, even if it's your bedroom and it's completely dark and you know your bedroom, like you know where everything is, when the lights are turned off, you can mistake like the jacket in the door to be a person, or the shadows reflecting from the light to be like some creature, or a rope on the ground to be a snake. So in the same way, our eyes can trick us. We can't trust our vision just by our sight. So this Vedic knowledge, it gives us the eyes to be able to see things that we can't see with our normal eyes. It's seeing through hearing, which is actually the most potent way of getting knowledge. Just like in the morning when you wake up, the first thing that wakes you up is the sound of your alarm clock going off. Not necessarily the light that comes in through the window. So yeah, the first thing that wakes us up from our sleep is sound. And then that sound gives us the ability to see. So yeah, this Vedic knowledge, it gives us the light, sort of the way that we can see things properly. There's this prayer that we say often when we're giving, when we're giving classes, we'll often say this right after they finish reading. It's Om Aganan Tarandasya Ganandana Shalakaya Chakshun Tamina Tasmai Shri. And the translation is literally like, I was sleeping in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. So this is a nice way to, to think in sort of a humble manner. Like, okay, I'm sleeping in the sense of being unaware of what's happening. Sleeping in the sense of being in a darkened state of light. where people are sort of ignorance is bliss, like no problems. And then a guide or someone who's expertly studied this Vedic literature, who has complete knowledge and can see things clearly, will sort of come and like shake us up a little bit, like, hey, this is what's happening, and yeah, and wake us up so that we can also take to this path and properly inquire. So yeah, I just wanted to read some verses. So yeah, this is Bhagavad Gita as it is, the prime Bhakti Yoga text. Might as well be in that. So yeah, there's this chapter in Bhagavad Gita, very nice chapter called the Opulence of the Absolutes, chapter 10. And there's two verses I wanted to read from, text 10 and text 11. The 10 and text 10:10 and 10:11. So 10:10, it talks about this spiritual knowledge, the spiritual science called Buddhi Yoga, or Buddhi Yoga. So yeah, the text is Tesham Satata Yogana Bhajatam Purvagam Dadadi Buddhi Yoguftam Yenamam Bayante. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. I'll just read a little bit from the purport, because this Buddhi Yogam is very significant. It's explained as the highest intelligence. So, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport. Now, Buddhi Yoga is explained. Buddhi Yoga itself is action in Krishna consciousness. That is the highest intelligence. Buddhi means intelligence, and yoga means mystic activities or mystic elevation. When one tries to go home back to Godhead and takes fully to Krishna consciousness in devotional service, his action is called Buddhi Yoga. In other words, Buddhi Yoga is the process by which one gets out of the entanglement of the material world. So yeah, this is very nice. This Buddhi Yoga is like the highest form of intelligence that we can get. So one may be a scientist. We have so many, so much scientific knowledge that they can recite off from their belt of knowledge acquiring things. But actually, the highest knowledge that we can get is to know who we are, what our purpose is, and what the ultimate goal of our life is. Because that's the thing that's going to mean most to us. And there's so many quite amazing scholars, quite amazing scientists that do go down in history, and you do learn about them. They're in these big textbooks that you learn when you're in school. You learn about this person and that person and what they did and how they did things. And at the same point in time, their what they did and how they did things doesn't always stick into the heart of like, wow, that person really was amazing. They really changed the lives of people. Of course, there's a few who've done that, and yeah, they are quite amazing. But the people who really change the world are those who first change themselves, and then through their own activities are able to impact people very great and deep level. So yeah, this process of bhakti yoga, or this process of Krishna consciousness, is quite amazing in the sense that the whole process is that you adjust yourself, and then just by doing that, you're actually able to affect and change so much about the world and your immediate association. And it's quite an easy thing to do, actually. We just have to be sincere. There's this next verse is quite nice too. Tesham Nigamanakum Partam Hamakana Jantama Nashimatma Bhavastu Gyanatipi Vastaha. So this is to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born ignorance. So we sincerely are trying to understand what this whole thing is about. Then Krishna from within our heart, Krishna is another name of God, will help us. He'll destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. And like we were saying earlier, this knowledge is what allows us to see things properly. And when we can see things properly, then we can act. Just like, if you were to think, okay, like you see someone who's in a shop and they look like they're just like kind of looking at the jewelry, and then they see them trying on some rings, and you go over and you say, wow, those rings are really nice on you. I should buy them. They're so pretty. Um, and then you turn your back for a moment and they're gone and all the sirens are going off. You realize, oh, this person was a thief. I just encourage them that they should take all this jewelry. So if you have some knowledge and think, oh, this person actually looks a little dodgy, like they look like they're not, maybe they're not properly dressed, and we have some understanding of what that means instead of just like, maybe it's a new style. Then we can think, oh, this person, he looks a little dodgy. You can inform the person, this person, I'm not sure. He looks like he might be wanting to steal something. And this way we can, help with the situation. So this also is, there are some things that are preventing us from having this super clear vision. And there's the fact that we live in this world, which is dominated by these three modes of material nature. So Bhagavad Gita gives a really nice explanation for sort of the way that the world works in different ways. Like sometimes it almost seems as though things are going against us. Like we want to be able to uh, do things in a certain way, but it's almost as though we're stopped. We can't do them that way. Or a New Year's resolution, like I'm gonna do yoga every morning for 30 minutes. I'm gonna do my meditation. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And then first 2 days, and it just doesn't work. Just don't do it. So there's an explanation for that in Bhagavad Gita. It's three modes of material nature. And there's this chapter 7, text 13, which really nicely sort of summarizes it and just read a bit of it. So, the text is deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, ignorance. The whole world is not known above the modes that are inexhaustible. So the whole world is enchanted by the modes of material nature. Those who are bewildered by these three modes cannot understand transcendental to this material nature is the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So there's three modes, there's passion, goodness, and ignorance. And these are they're like three colors, like red, yellow, and blue. And, if you're an artist, if you mix red and yellow together, you get orange. If you mix blue and red together, you get purple. So it's like 3 times 3 is 9. There's actually unlimited combinations of these modes that you can get to. And this is quite interesting for those who are interested in Varnashram. It says, those who are purely in the mode of goodness, or Brahmanas, those who are purely in the mode of passion are called Kshatriyas, and those who are in the modes of both passion and ignorance are called Vaishyas, and those who are completely in the mode of ignorance are called Shudras, and those who are less than that are animals or animal life. So, actually most of us are Vaishyas or Shudras. This is, and then he says, actually, however, I am neither Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, I'm just a servant of the Supreme Lord. So, in any case, this life is temporary. And even thinking like that, we say, it says here, but although life is temporary, we do not know what we are going to be in the next life by the spell of the Vishnu energy. We consider ourselves in terms of bodily conception of life. We think, I am American, Indian, Russian, I'm a Brahmana, a Hindu, a Muslim. And this is all different ways that we become entangled in material nature and we forget what our purpose is and who is behind all these modes. So, these modes of nature, they can be quite tricky to deal with because they can be quite subtle or they can be quite obvious. And you can imagine that, yeah, to practice a spiritual life in the mode of ignorance would be very hard, as the mode of ignorance is categorized by inertia, sleep, laziness, intoxication. Um, so these things are very prominent for somebody who's in the mode of ignorance. Uh, yeah, just total nonchalant, careless mood. For someone who's in the mode of passion, there's representation of activities, lots of like rushing around, very busy. So this can also be hard for someone trying to practice a meditative lifestyle, practice bhakti in these environments, because you're always rushing here. You sit down to do some meditation, but then your mind's saying, no, no, you gotta get ready for work, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do this. So it can be hard to turn off the mind. And then for the mode of goodness is actually one of the symptoms or the side effects of the mode of goodness is that you are in a religious state of mind. So religiousness is very prominent for someone who's in the mode of goodness purely. The downside of the mode of goodness in the material world is that we also become quite proud of that as well. So pride can be a downfall. Pride is quite a large downfall. Um, so yeah, the goal for the Vaishnava is to get free from the modes of material nature to sort of transcend them. And you can't really jump one mode to the other, as I've heard. You have to transcend, like go through them. So we go out of the mode of ignorance to passion, and then we're in a kind of a mix of passion and ignorance, and then we slowly get out of that, and we go to more passion and goodness mix, and then slowly get out of that one, and we go to more goodness level. And then, yeah, and then we can get out of all of those and just be on the platform of Vaishnava. That's why we were hearing today in the verse how one can be a Vaishnava and also be considered a Brahmana or a high class person, um, just because of his position as being a Vaishnava or someone who's completely conscious of the supreme absolute whole. Whereas someone who's in the category of like Brahmana by birth, or someone who might be born into a high class family uh, or a priestly family, might not actually possess the qualities of somebody who is a Vaishnava, and therefore almost as though their position is disregarded. It's very common, actually. I've met many people while doing book distribution, sharing around Bhagavad Gita's on the street, and they say, they're just out of their takeaway shop and they've got like their hands full of takeaway boxes with like all sorts of different meat products in them, and showing them the book. They say, "Oh no, no, I can't take. My hands are unclean." Um, it's like, "Oh well, it's okay. These books are purified. It doesn't matter about that. They're meant for everybody." No, 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 you don't understand. I'm a Brahmana. I can't take these books because my hands are unclean. So even that sentence, statement in itself contradicts each other. Um, so yeah, this is why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who's in our disciplical succession, was against this birth by birth category, like you're a Brahmana by birth, or vice versa. Same with Srila Prabhupada when he was initiating Western disciples into ISKCON, or Krishna Conscious Society, and giving them an opportunity to get this knowledge that had come from India, the highest knowledge that there is. He was getting a lot of criticism because these people who were in the guise of brahmanas were criticizing Srila Prabhupada, but what he was doing was wrong. I appreciate the other way around. So it's important to have knowledge so we can act properly and have the proper understanding. And this knowledge we can get from hearing. Hearing is, as we were saying earlier, the highest way to get knowledge. So once we have the proper knowledge, then we're able to discriminate properly, which means that we can act properly. And we can ask the proper questions, like what's the purpose of this life? What am I here for? How do I not get entangled in all the different entangling things there are? Or what will happen to me when I die? What will happen to my kids when they die? What's the highest welfare work that I can do? What's the best thing I can do in this life? Is karma real? Is reincarnation real? Maybe you might think these questions are things you might ask yourself when you're older, and therefore you can save these questions for later. But actually, I've heard old age is very hard, and it's although you might inquire about these things then, you won't even have the ability to act on them because your body decays around you. Um, as we know, there's birth, death, old age, and disease. It's a cycle of life. So how do we get out of this cycle of going through that again? I remember when I was just coming across this sort of stuff, this sort of knowledge, when I was living in New Zealand, and I was going to this yoga studio that was also had a lot of people who were practicing Krishna consciousness or bhakti yoga, and they were sharing this knowledge about reincarnation and karma, and I got to a class where someone had explained very nicely that this analogy of reincarnation and karma together, like you're going to a car dealership and you really want to get like a nice like Ferrari sports car, like a Jaguar, like that's what I want to drive. Drive this nice Jaguar. But you go there and you talk to the car dealer and you're looking at it and you're like, that's what I want. And he's like, okay, this is how much it costs. And you go into your pockets and you're like, oh, I only have like this much money. Like I only have $1,000. And this car costs like 10,000, so I can't afford it. And the car dealer looks at you and he's like, okay, with $1,000, you can't buy anything from my lot. You're going to have to go all the way down there to this dodgy secondhand lot and buy a car from there. So you go and you get this cheap car and it's not what you wanted and it doesn't work the way you want it. It doesn't have heating in winter. The tires make weird sounds. Sometimes the brakes don't work. There's a like dog living in the back seat. So you don't get the situation you want, but you still have to get a car because you have to drive around. So now you're stuck with this car that you don't like and you have to drive it everywhere. So this is like reincarnation and karma together. This body, when we leave our body, this body goes back to the elements that it was created from. So earth, water, fire, air, ether. But the self, which is who we are on a deeper level, the spirit soul, that carries on to a new body. So depending on what our consciousness is and what we're thinking about at the time when we leave our body, that kind of determines where we're going to go in our next life. And depending on the activities and the things we've done in this life, that can have a really big impact on the life we have, the next body we take. So yeah, it's often said that people who are born into a good family, and I say good family not in a way to try and discriminate between a good and bad family or try and get into the politics of how, yeah, some kids are just born into bad situations, and that's almost undeniable. So yeah, kids who are born into a good situation where they have parents who are loving, the parents are in some way conscious of some sort of spirituality or some God consciousness, or they're favorable and open to that. And the kids are raised in a nice environment where they're fed and they're clothed and they go through school and there's no hardships. Then you can understand by this life that person in their previous life performed a lot of good activities. And this is a situation they're born into. Whereas for another, a kid who's born into a house where his parents are both meth addicts and he's just beaten up his entire life, and then his parents get arrested, he's put in foster care, and he struggles like anything, you can understand, okay, maybe this personality in a previous life has done something, then this is his punishment for that activity, for those activities. So it can be harsh to think about, but it can also help understanding how things work. Although, of course, you have to be very sensible because you can't just walk up to a kid or someone who's struggled their whole life and be like, oh, it's just your karma. That won't really go down. So, like, wow, it's a bit very hard. Can't imagine. And actually thinking in when we come to Krishna consciousness, for those who have taken to the practice seriously, we once we take initiation from our spiritual master, who is like the guide that helps us in our bhakti practice. Just like if you go to university, you have a mentor, a teacher, professor who knows much more than you and can help you. So we have the same in our bhakti practices. And actually our karma becomes minimized. So then any sort of thing that happens to us, we can understand, wow, I probably deserved much more than this, but this is just a small reaction for something that I've done. Like often when I'm cooking, I get cuts or burns on my hands and think, oh, this is just a tiny karmic reaction for, probably should have lost my finger, but it's just something small. So it's good to have this knowledge because, yeah, it can help us understand things as they are. And maybe we might be thinking, like, I don't know if this whole thing is actually real. Like, really, Krishna, little blue boy, that can't be actually like God. This whole thing could probably just be made up. But if there's any chance in your heart that you think, no, this is nice, or this is real, or I've had like tangible experiences where I felt that there's some deeper connection here, then just on that chance, if you just flame that fire a little bit, then it's worth giving it a chance because there is some truth there. And why risk it if you're not losing anything really, you're just adding more good things to your life. Actually, the only thing you're losing is your stress, anxiety, and bad habits. So why not take the Krishna consciousness? You just add in good things into your life. So I guess I'll finish there. We talked a little bit about, we talked a lot about Vedic knowledge and how it can change the way we see things. We read a bit of quotes from Bhagavad Gita. Um, we talked a little bit about not judging a book by its cover, which is also just due to our not having the vision to see properly what's inside the book. And yeah, we spoke a little bit about the body and its changing and what karma and reincarnation is. So I'll open it up if anybody's got any questions or reflections they'd like to share. Anything from our in-person audience? Do you have any questions for me or comments or corrections? Yes, Pastor.
Speaking you're talking about the sharing of Vedic knowledge, how important it is to actually have a guru to receive it from. Because especially like in the colonization in India, there's so many people who became Sanskritists. They became to like 1 year Williams or something. But it's not like they actually understood the Vedic knowledge just by academic learning. That it was have to be received from a pure soul.
Yeah, I mean, you answered the question basically. Yeah, like we have, like materially, people have teachers they take their guidance from, and that way they can learn the whole subject matter completely. And in our spiritual line, we have different people who we take as gurus or spiritual masters or spiritual teachers. And because these personalities, they have been practicing and teaching and studying these bhakti lifestyle for many, many years, like 50, 60, so many years. And the way they're doing it is so pure that they're able to um, control all of their senses, which is quite a hard thing to do if anyone's ever tried to sit down for 5 minutes and control your mind. It's quite tricky if you're not very conscious of how everything works. So yeah, these people they're not ordinary personalities. They're almost at the platform where they're very completely spiritually pure. And not only that, but they're also connected through their teachers and through their teachers all the way up to Krishna. just like we have so many pictures of different personalities in the room. So this is our paramparas, or chain of disciplical succession, that leads us right back up to when Krishna was here on the earth. The people who were in his association, or we have association through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was actually a great personality, Nimai Pandit, that you can read about. We could Wikipedia Nimai Pandit, and you can read his bio. He was a great personality that appeared on the earth in Navadvip in India, and he was actually a very unique spiritual personality. He came as an incarnation of the potency, a male potency of Krishna and female potency of Krishna. It's very unique spiritual form. From him we've got the 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan. There, Goswami is the name of a person who's renounced everything. 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan. Then from them down is Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, from him Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami, Srila Prabhupada. I think I missed somebody in there. Anyways, so the teaching is just brought up, and if we're connected into that line, then it's basically like on a straight shot back. Everything's very clear. But if we're not connected to that line, then things can get confusing because you can get lost in the forest. It's not clear. It's just nice to have a light path that's easy. So there's that. The benefits are unlimited actually to taking on a spiritual teacher, taking that lifestyle practice. And of course, we can always take shelter of Srila Prabhupada as a spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada, the founder chair of the Krishna consciousness movement, bringing it here from India, making it accessible for everybody. So then we can also always take shelter of him. Any questions, anyone?
No, thank you.
It's nice to have you. Thanks for coming. Anything from Zoom?
Thank you for a wonderful and very clear, comprehensive class. I really appreciate bringing in 10-10 and Buddhi Yoga. I mean, I've heard 10-10 multiple times, and I've been telling myself, oh, go back and read it, but didn't do that. So clearly Krishna arranged very nicely, like, okay, well, it keeps coming up. So this is a perfect time to come back and read it. I don't have a question. I just have appreciations, and thank you for just such a wonderful class. This is really clear. This is very nice. Everything was laid out very nicely. I really love the analogy of the modes of material nature and how it's like a paint palette, and it's just being mixed, and then you get a bunch of colors from it. So with that, it's a lot clearer to see. It's a lot clearer to see influence when you're living your life versus just thinking, okay, well, I want to do this thing today and it's going to get done. But then we forget how these influences may hinder that or may add to that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a class from Srila Prabhupada where he says about the modes of material nature. It's quite a nice analogy. Anyone else? Any other comments? Questions or corrections?
Thank you for a very comprehensive class on Krishna consciousness. Like Y said, it was very well put together and a nice overview on different factors in Krishna consciousness, like the modes and the light of knowledge. And you were talking about being entangled, and this verse came to mind from Bhagavatam 1:114. Apana sanskritim gauram yannam vivashoganan tata sadyo vimucheta yad bibheti swayambhayam. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. So that just verse came to mind. But I have a question. If you could you talk a little bit more about the analogy of, how you talked about the car and the jaguar? Could you talk a little bit about how that connects to the karma and reincarnation?
Um, so yeah, the car analogy I heard in Auckland from the devotee Badr saying, maybe yesterday knows it quite a nice devotee. Um, yeah, so it's like you have a certain amount of money. So it's like assuming in your life you've done a certain amount of activities, like you've done a certain amount of like pious activities, good karma, bad karma, and you've got your allotment, which is like your income, like your bank balance. And then you go to buy a car. And this is like you're changing your bodies, as we've heard this analogy before, of like the car being a body. Where we know that the car is not driving itself. We have the driver who's different, which is the souls. The body's moving, but there's the individual soul on the inside who's acting as though they're in a car. So you go to the dealership to buy a car, this is like you're reincarnating, and you might think in your present life, oh, in my next life, I want to, take birth in a Svara Loka and be a singing demigod and just live a total life of bliss and joy. But we don't just notice that actually our income is only like $50. We don't have that much. So this when you go to the car dealership, it's like you might be thinking, I want that one. I want the Jaguar. I want the Ferrari. But because we've only done, maybe we haven't done very many nice things, or maybe we haven't done any, like if we're just acting on a material platform, we haven't done any consciousness, we haven't done anything, we've just been like functioning on our own platform. Then, yeah, when we go to that, um, the the body that we get or the car that we get is something that is, yeah, most like it's not a good deal. Not get a good deal for ourselves. So yeah, to avoid that, we can actually, yeah, act with knowledge, not like go out of our way to perform good and bad karma, because of course, good and bad karma both have reaction, which will eventually run out. And we want to get to the point when we don't have karma with us. We won't have no karma. So we don't have to take birth again to have the activities of our karma be like exhausted. We just want to don't have any karma. And that's why Krishna consciousness is nice, because it like clears the slate for us so that we can get out of the cycle of buying and selling cars or changing bodies and go to a place where there's no karma. We don't have to come back and go through that cycle. So yeah, that's like the analogy.
Thank you. So is the currency the karma? Is that what the money is that you're buying with?
Bodies of the cars. By the way, very inspired by your shlokas that you're reciting in Bhagavatam classes. You're slaying it. Dana Palaka, do you have a question?
All right, well, I just also wanted to give my appreciation. I don't know what devotees have been eating lately, but the classes have been so nectar back to back. Yeah, and you're just adding to that lineup. Everything was really clear and very comprehensive. Yeah, I was just amazed the whole time. I was feeling so inspired. So that's all.
Thanks, well, we do cook, so we're eating your prashad. Any others? Got 2 minutes.
I know we only have 2 minutes or a minute now, but can you, if you can, just in a very short and concise way, can you help us understand what it is that we can do, considering karma and bodies and all of these things? What's a simple thing that we can do in order to, yeah, stop that cycle? Like you said, we don't want a nice car anymore. We don't want the money. Like what do we do if we want to get out of that? Just in a very simple the most simple way that you can think of it.
You can take lunch today. It's probably the easiest one. Take lunch here today. There's a conch shell. Engaging in emotional service is easy. Eat, sing, dance, and chants. Good food, good people, those sweet. Just like that. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Radha Damodar ki jai.
Jai.
Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Vishnu Krishna Prasaya Bhakti Vedanta Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
सिद्धांत श्री गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की कृष्णाय ओम जय श्री अद्वैत गदाधर संपूर्ण गिरिरोधाय मैं भगवान श्री कृष्ण की धर्म की श्री गीता नगरी नाम की जय my Lord, protected us from you that can find the very perfect thing is there. Our spiritual master, worship mercy, plan and form for the master. Oh, man, be merciful, because the shade of the sea. To the family care alone, but I really need to cover my feet to God. What are we doing? Decorating the house. We're going to make all. Oh. This for today. We're going to go ahead and go down. Oh. Too much work, sure. And here this one we have. Then it's not cost the same with it, but this is amazing. Spot reducing. But this yes, seeing you very close. Yeah, exactly. Go to the right places. So the cows, the cows. Yes. This was pretty difficult. There is a role that used to be like used to buy yeah, rather than doing sugar about. Yeah. Can I see that? I don't know where it is, but I don't know if it's they have it out available or if someone has it actually. Yeah. I will.